place by the USDA in 1988 specifically to advance sustainable innovations in American agriculture. So everything we do is focused on sustainability as a component. Now, sustainability can be environmental sustainability, it can be business sustainability. So there's a lot of different ways that we view sustainability, but everything we do is focused on that particular tenet. One of the things that we did when USDA formed SARE, one of the things that was a little bit different when we put SARE in place was that SARE was really conceived as kind of a decentralized, science-based, grassroots problem-solving initiative. And so what we're going to talk about in this talk is some of the things that we do to do that. So we have grant programs, but we also have some really incredible outreach programs. And I'm a little biased because I work for SARE, but I will say, as a beginning farmer, I've been working in agriculture for the last 25 years. But as a beginning farmer, starting my own agriculture business within the last 10 years, one of the things that has been just incredibly valuable for me, not only as a professional, as a scientist working for MSU, but also as a farmer, is all of the learning materials that are available through SARE. And I'm going to blow your mind when you basically open up our learning resources and see all of the resources that are available to you. It's pretty amazing. So let's go into a little bit more about the SARE model and what those resources look like and how you can access them. So USDA, NIFA, the National Institutes for Food and Agriculture, support SARE. So we're housed within USDA NIFA. And SARE's outreach is really focused on producing practical information. As a scientist, one of the things that I know that a lot of farmers struggle with is that when we're talking about innovations in agriculture, oftentimes we're talking about something that's still in that peer-reviewed literature realm. It's, you pick up a peer-reviewed journal article on something farm-based, and a lot of times the language is really difficult. It's just hard to get through the darn article because it's written for a scientific audience. And that's what we really noticed and really recognized within SARE early on, is that we wanted this information that we put together to be for the farmer. So the information that we provide to you through USDA is not the scientific heavy jargon. Rather, it's the practical application of scientific principles in sustainable agriculture, which is really useful for us as farmers. The SARE model really looks at the kind of the grantees that are successful with us in 3 different areas. So we look at sustainability. Like I said, we don't look at it as just sustainability from an environmental standpoint. We also look at it for profit. So how is your business going to last over the long term? Is it sustainable? The quality of life for you as a farmer and your community, is that sustainable? I as a farmer myself, I know that, we are always trying to, figure out the best and newest ways to do things to make things more efficient. But when we do that, we also have to be very, very, very keen on the idea that whatever decisions we're making are financially, good for us and are actually going to improve our lives as well, and our land. That's the stewardship component. So we look at this in all different ways when it comes to sustainability. So one of the things when people come to me and want to talk about grants that they oftentimes get hung up on is, well, I'm not sure if this is like environmentally sustainable. That does not have to be it. Maybe it's just getting your business to be sustainable from a financial standpoint. Okay, and SARE really has an amazing reach when it comes to partners as well. So this is why we're able to get all this amazing scientific information into your hands in an easily digestible format for a farmer, is that we partner with all of these great agencies and organizations, just like you see here today. So we have partnerships with universities, we have partnerships with Extension, we partner with NGOs, we partner with other ag professionals, and we do this all within kind of a 4-region model. Now, those of us in Michigan, you are part of North Central Region SARE. So all the programs that you look for us are going to be through North Central Region SARE, also known as NCR SARE. All right, so let's get to the fun stuff, the outreach materials. This is what I love the most about what we do. Now, we're going to talk about some of the grant programs here in just a moment, and that's a fantastic avenue as well. But boy, when it comes to learning, this is the place you want to be if you're interested in anything sustainable agriculture-wise. So we have the SARE Learning and Resource Library available through our website. And really what that does is that gives you access to thousands of articles, hundreds of books, media outreach. We do all sorts of things as far as resources as well. All of this is housed within our learning and resource platform. And really, when I say books, I mean free books, like free downloadable books on how to do something sustainable, and some really great topics, including things like, well, look at right here. I have my book on building better soils for better crops, right? Well, you can't see it because it's behind me, but there you go. So we have all, and that's actually a downloadable book for free. Amazing resources, right? So these are things that you can access to help you along with your farming ventures. All right, next slide here. All right, so let's get into the grant types. Now, I know I'm speeding through all of this. We've got 10 minutes to do this, but if you ever want to talk about grants or resources, you'll have my contact information here right at the end, and you're welcome to contact me to talk about any of this in length. But we have several grant programs that are available, and I'm going to touch on 3 specific ones today that are relevant to you as farmers. So we have a research and education program that is primarily focused on NGOs and researchers. Professional development program is focused on professional development of ag educators. So those are folks that work for NGOs, work for extension, things like that. We also have a graduate student grant as well, which if you're a graduate student, you can take advantage of. But the big grants that we have available that farmer ranchers typically take advantage of are our Farmer Rancher Grant, our Youth Educator Grant, and our Partnership Grant. And I'm going to go through these 3 grants real quickly just to give you an idea of what they cover. All right, so by far, our most popular farmer grant is the Farmer Rancher Grant. And Ben Bartlett's going to talk a little bit about his experience working with the Farmer Rancher Grant here in just a moment. But the Farmer Rancher Grant is really a grant that's there to empower you as a farmer to do research, to do education, or create a demonstration site on your farm. So you can do, real basic research. So maybe something like, I'll use bees as an example because I'm a beekeeper. So maybe I wanted to test an overwintering practice and compare it against another overwintering practice for my beehives. That's a really great research project to do for a farmer. You're able to show that you can, you're figuring out something sustainability wise, and then you would have an outreach component to that to help the folks in your community understand what you learned from your experience working on the grant. In addition, you could do education. Maybe you want to start an education program on your farm to teach folks in something sustainable, or maybe you want to create a demonstration site for sustainable practices. These are all things that we fund within the Farmer Rancher Grant. Now, the Farmer Rancher Grant is a 23-month grant, and it's a reimbursement grant, meaning that you spend down the dollars and then you get reimbursed from us. But for this grant, we will fund you up to $9,000 for an individual farm to do this particular grant. Or if you have a friend that you want to partner with to do some work with, we can do partner grants. So if you have 2 farmers that are on a Farmer Rancher Grant together, you can apply for up to $18,000. If you have 3 or more farmers, meaning they're individual entities, they're individual business entities, then you can apply for up to $27,000 for that grant. So a really great grant to take advantage of for farmers. We also have the Youth Educator Grant. This is a grant that is really focused on encouraging young people to try sustainable practices or to see sustainable ag as a career opportunity. So this is something that farmers can get involved in. You could be one of those individuals to help with training the next generation of young farmers. And this is the type of grant that we would look at to help you do that. Again, it's up to 23 months, just like the Farmer Rancher Grant, and it's up to $4,000 is where that grant tops out at. So another opportunity, this opportunity to train some youth. And the last grant that I'm going to talk about is the Partnership Grant. Now, the Partnership Grant is really designed to bring researchers and farmers together to work on something constructive in the sustainable realm. So that could be research, that could be education, but the big thing that we want to see on the Partnership Grant is the collaboration between farmers and ag professionals. And so the ag professional is going to be the lead, and then they generally work with a small group of farmers. This is up to 24 months for this particular grant, up to $40,000 for that award, and really a great opportunity for you as a farmer to work with ag professionals, like many of the folks that are on this call today, to really get some research or education going on your farm. And this is something, again, that the ag professional would be the lead on. So it's a true partnership. Okay, so that is my short little spiel about the SARE programs that we have available. If you have any questions about any of the programs that we offer through NCR SARE, you can contact myself or Dean Boss. We're both here in Michigan. I'm in the UP in Newberry. Dean's down in Hickory Corners near Kalamazoo. So We've got good coverage over the state. But if you're thinking about applying for a grant, if you just want to talk about what a good grant proposal would look like, if you need assistance writing a grant, because many farmers have never written grants before, we can put you in contact with folks that can help. So please feel free to reach out. You've got my contact information there. And I'm going to go ahead and end my slideshow because our next speaker is going to be Ben. And Ben's going to talk to us a little bit about what his experience was working on the Farmer Rancher grant that he had a few years back. So Ben, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to hear about your experience working with us. I've read your final reports through the SARE website and just really excited to see how things went for you. So I have a couple questions I wanted to ask Ben as we're kind of getting started here. And the first question I wanted to ask you, Ben, is, well, what SARE resources have you used to support your farm?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Adam, for the invitation. And I'm not sure I can keep up with your level of enthusiasm, but I'll try, okay? I
appreciate that, Ben.
And not just briefly, I'm in the Chatham area in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, Alger County, and we run a flock of sheep and cattle, and have done that for a number of years, and we're a grass-based type of operation. And so in 2014, we applied for a grant to look at soil health test and how we could use that to make better grazing decisions, because grazing is the foundation of our operation. Growing good grass and growing lots of grass and marketing it by 4-footed animals walking off the place. So the more we can know about how we're growing grass, and this was kind of the advent of new soil test, new soil health test and biological test. So we did a project on that. It was really great because we did around over $5,000 with the soil test, had this great plan. And the first year's results was 0 to slightly negative, which was quite demoralizing to say the least after we put all that effort in, but we had a little money left over. Sarah said, yeah, go ahead and use that for next year. We did some more research and we found out that we were looking for grazing impacts on soil health at 7 days. And really the microbes in the soil react in 24 hours or less, 24 hours or so. So we redid a small portion of that project the second year. And by George, it lined up just exactly what we said it was. So it was great. And so Sarah enabled us to validate we had this suspicion that our grazing could impact the microbes in the ground just by animals eating the grass, and we could validate that. So it really encouraged us to continue with our grazing program, and it also warned us that a soil health test is not just, there isn't one test that said, yes, your soil is healthy, or no, it isn't. It's kind of like human health. One test doesn't always tell you everything. So you need to look at the whole thing. So the grant program was fantastic. We learned a lot from it. We shared that with a lot of people. We actually had the opportunity to share it internationally. We happened to be traveling some, and we shared it with some friends in South Africa. So that was kind of fun. So that was the one big program we worked with on our particular place. And like I said, it was all the tests were new at that time. It was a real learning experience, and couldn't have done it any other way. There was no doubt about it. Another program we worked with, and I was visiting with Abby earlier about, we had another soil test kind of thing. Abby came up with this SARE project, and we were kind of a cooperator on it. As a farmer with a problem, we wanted to increase our hay yields and maintain our soil health in our field with a limited hands behind our back, because the field was a long ways from our place. We couldn't graze it. It was too far away to actually spread manure on it. So what can we do agronomically to keep the soil health up? Because those are two of the things you usually recommend. Put manure on it, compost, put grazing animals, etc. So we worked with Abby on that, and that was really great because it was just a small portion of Abby's bigger project, but it was working with the local high school kids. And it was really fun to see their enthusiasm, interest, not every one of them, but many of them were. I think part of it was to get out of school and spend some time outside. But in addition, some of them just really got a kick out of, gee, what's happening here? So those are two of the actual projects we worked with. And then I got to support what you said, Adam, about the resources that SARE has available. I ran across something the other day that I haven't put it into action yet, but this raised strawberry bed deal. You know, you could put strawberries in baskets 4 foot off the ground and you can just stand up and pick them. It's like, wow, that's a cool idea, you know, and we all know that we learn most from our peers, from other producers and that. And SARE is a group of peers. You're visiting with a bunch of other farmers. We all know when we go to meetings, we go there so we can visit with the guy in the back of the room. We really don't care what the speaker said. That was just an excuse to get away from home for the day. So, and that's what SARE is all about. Producers getting a chance to share their ideas, kind of documented ideas, not just, hey, I got this harebrained thought, but I tried it and here's how it works. So it's a really fantastic opportunity. So hands-on grants and sharing with other producers, can't beat SARE.
I appreciate that, Ben. Yeah, Ben's a really great example, I think, of how SARE kind of will loop you in. So, you know, one of the things when you receive, you know, resources from us, or you start working with myself or Dean, or, you know, working with some of our grant programs, we typically will continue to keep you on our radar so that when other projects come up that are in your area, you know, we can connect you with them. And I think, Ben, you're a great example of working with Abby on her project, of getting looped into another SARE project because you're part of the SARE community now. So I think, you know, when I think about SARE too, you know, we think about USDA as this big nebulous agency, but SARE feels much more like a family, or, you know, some folks you can kind of talk to, you know, at a real personal level. So I appreciate that, Ben. Ben, I had another question for you that I wanted to kind of explore as we're talking about this for folks that might be thinking about applying for grants for the first time. Do you have any advice for folks that are, you know, maybe a little intimidated by applying for a grant?
You bet I do. And I've got this is kind of a confession, you know, I've got to confess that I was actually on the SARE North Central Committee for a number of years. And so I was one of these people that read all those grants many years. So you get a box, it don't do it anymore, but in the old days, used to literally get a box of grant applications and had to read through all those and score them, etc. So I have a chance to actually get those grants and say which ones hit me, you know. And the thing that I would say, number one, to people, I've got four items I'd like to share with you. Number one is give your idea a try. I mean, whether it's raised strawberries, whether it's, no matter what it is, if you've got some idea, out of the box thinking is what SARE's looking for. I mean, we know cows can eat grass, you know, and you move them around. Well, people have done that now for a number of years. You got to come up with something a little more inventive than just doing the same old thing. And many people have got great ideas. It's not crazy. Give it a try. So, you know, don't give up on your good idea. Give it a try. This is going to sound kind of funny, but probably the second most important thing is follow directions. You know, unfortunately, every year we'd have people say, you know, there was actually 4 more applications, grants that came in, but they came in too late. Or people didn't fill out the form the right way. And you say, well, gee, why such, or another one, which sounds kind of funny, was it's supposed to be a certain format, certain page size, and a certain font size, okay? Well, gee, well, you're real picky, aren't you? Well, if you've read 40 grants and someone comes in with an 8 font with narrow margins, you know, your eyeballs are about ready to fall out. And quite frankly, you don't do a very good job of reading that application, okay? You know, I mean, you've already got a little bit of chip on your shoulder. It's like, I'm supposed to read this whole thing. So number 2, just follow directions. And that also is an indicator of how well you might follow through on the program. You know, if you can't read the directions, how are you going to follow through on the rest of the programs? It just gives us an indication, or those people that are reading those forms. I don't do it anymore. Number 3 would be just tell your story. Plain English, no philosophy, no climate change, you know, tangents, etc. just telling people what you want to do, so that when you read it, when you get done, I mean, I've read some that this sounds like a great idea, but I'm not sure what it really wants to do. You know, I mean, you just can't understand it. So when you write it, give it to Adam or somebody or your neighbor and say, read this. Tell me what you think. Just because you're going to give it to people that don't know anything about bees or cows or strawberries. So we talk about, we've been in the sheep business many years. We talk about jug and use, and people look at us like, what do you do to them? You know, I mean, they visualize as stuffing a ewe in a milk jug, you know, or something. And so you watch the vernacular. I mean, just plainly tell your story. Don't get too complicated. Number 4 is keep it relevant to others. As much as you can come up with an idea that maybe will impact other people. You know, if you want something that is going to be in the area that would relevant, you know, probably growing pineapples in the UP, there's not a lot of people want to try that. You may think it's a great idea, but, you know, maybe it's not really worth it. But growing grass in the UP, raising bees, it can be off the wall, but make it that, gee, maybe other people could do this too. So those are the 4 points. You know, give your crazy idea a chance, follow directions, plainly tell your story, make sure, have somebody read it to make sure you don't have something in there that nobody else will understand, and keep it, you know, the more people that are going to benefit from this project, the more inclined they are to say, wow, if that thing really worked, there's a lot of people that could really benefit. So keep those 4 things in mind.
That is great advice, Ben. Those are 4 solid pieces of advice that I would give you myself as the SARE state coordinator when you're talking to me about grants. So that was great advice, Ben. I really appreciate your take on all of this, and thanks for joining us today to share your experience working with SARE. Really fantastic.
I've got one more little quick comment. Unfortunately, your lead-in has already given me another idea. It's like, I need to sit down and put together a program, because we're doing a thing on the farm here next spring. And so it's like, you know, this could be maybe something other people would want to participate in. So you've already got me booked for another one.
I love it. I love it, Ben. Thanks so much for joining us. Pleasure having you on board. All right, so that was Ben's story, really great story. And now we've got kind of another perspective on SARE, working with SARE, and we have Cloud here from the Waishley Bay Farm. Cloud, you want to introduce yourself today?
Bonjour, welcome to the Quad Indigenous. Looking up in the Dodam, Bawa Ting Minawan, Don Juba, Binojicaning and Don Juba, Anishna Bedo, Ojibwe and Edo. My name is Jeremy Great Cloud Sparks. I'm of the Fighting Turtle clan. Basically, that's what it comes down to, the snapper turtle. I am an Ojibwe, Anishinaabe. I bounce in between the place of the Shining Waters and the place of the Plentiful Pike, which is Bay Mills and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I am the Waishley Bay Farm Manager here, which is a incubator farm / community supported and community supporting farm here on the reservation, on ceded territory, ran by and overseen, I guess you would say, by Bay Mills Community College.
Thanks, Cloud. And I'm gonna just say right up front that Cloud, I have been working with Cloud for several years at Waishley Bay, and what has been done at Bay Mills Community College and the Waishley Bay Farm since Cloud has been there has been absolutely amazing. The work that Cloud has been doing with that farm has been incredible. And so I am so happy to have Cloud on board here with us today to kind of share some of his story about working with us at SARE. So Cloud, I'm going to start off right at the top, and I'm going to ask you too, what programs within SARE have you all used to kind of support Waishley Bay?
Okay, so yeah, start from the beginning, I suppose, is the best place to start. I know just about everybody, at least that's sharing their pictures here from one place or another, and you all know that I talk way too much. So we'll try to keep this underneath 10 minutes. On all honesty, to put it plain and simple, I wouldn't know, maybe I would, just because some things are just inevitable, but I probably wouldn't know half the people here and have half the connections I have and awesome network without SARE's help. Dean Boss actually helped to push forward a small scholarship to help me go to OFGP, the Organic Farmers Training course down at Michigan State University. And if it wasn't for that course, I would not have met half the people in the time frame that I have, which is really, really cool. Pretty awesome. So coming from the background of Anishinaabeg and Anishinaabeg values and our land here, having sovereign land is a pretty amazing thing. It's also extremely individual. So when it comes to farms and sustainable farms at large. So with that said, it's there's that equilibrium that is really hard to achieve between Western agricultural practices and beliefs versus, I guess you would say, indigenous agriculture or First Nations agriculture and beliefs and connections with the land. And sometimes those things, swing and sway back and forth. With that said, like I said, it's very individual to be working with SARE on completely sovereign land. It's pretty cool. Like I said, it's very individual. Some of the programs I've worked with, I worked with the Land-Based Learning Project with Abby and Kat Jocks and Heather Purple at JKL Bouting. Initially, it had been written as a program to be working with 8th to 9th graders and then possibly a little bit older age was the initial approach that was put forth to me. But when speaking with Abby and Kat and JKL is Joseph K. Lumsden, charter school in tribal-owned charter school in Sault Ste. Marie on the Sioux Tribe Reservation. I work for Bay Mills Indian community. So there's both Ojibwe, two separate tribes, not really, just within name. With that, there's a little bit of political turmoil between that and past histories and so on and so forth. So myself and Kat and Abby and everyone else kind of saw and recognized a really individual and extremely important opportunity to not just bring agriculture into the classroom, which was kind of Abby's approach, kind of her main situation, but not really the heart of why and how she did things. We were able to actually, by utilizing JKL, we were able to bring Bay Mills and the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians together for a really, really good purpose. And it had nothing to do with politics or money or anything of that nature. It was simply bringing education and bringing some of our cultural aspects and values and teachings directly to those students and putting them on the exact same level as we are. And that's one of those things we try really hard here, not just at this farm, but in my life in general, to not place myself as a 40-plus-year-old person above a 12-year-old person just because I'm older. That I think is ignoramus at its absolute best. So we approached these children and came into their classrooms. We offered tobacco to their teacher and to them, symbolically to them, and they held that tobacco and asked them for their help. It wasn't, hey, you can do this or you can't do this. We're asking you in a traditional, good way, can you help us? We have an issue. We've tried things, like Ben said, we have an issue. We've tried things, but we're not going to give you point A, point B, point C solutions and you choose. No, we actually handed them the entire book and was like, this is what's going on. How can you possibly help us with this situation? And then they were able to come to the farm, see the farm, touch this land, associate with this land and this property and understand that it is theirs, as well as it is the rest of the community, not just the Anishinaabe community, but our Four Nations community, our Four Colors community. They were able to come here and touch that land, pick those bugs up, see what's going on, see what we're dealing with. And then through a STEM/STEAM approach, they were able to put together plans, so on and so forth, assessments, and then actually they printed out their own 3D slug traps at the very end of it. They created their own product. I really wish this would have continued to be funded by somebody else would have picked it up, because it's amazing. Those kids actually created a product that works just as well as some of the best beer traps in the world, but they made an awesome trap that's sustainable. it's killer. But once the money's gone, the money's gone. We all know how that works. But the opportunity and the doors that opened are phenomenal. Bay Mills actually applied, Bay Mills Community College, after that, as a result of our research and result of all the work and help from Abby and Kat. I can't thank those two crazy women enough just for putting up with my stuff. Sorry, I apologize, but I really can't. I'm a pain in the butt to deal with at times. But they put up with me, and they're like, dude, it's cool. You're crazy. We're crazy enough to deal with you. We're going to make this work. And it was awesome. And as a result of all this work that we did in this really life-changing situation for these children and these educators, Bay Mills Community College reinvested into the SARE situation, applied for a larger long-term grant to actually create an ag in the classroom, a whole situation that will carry on. It's presently being worked on by Michelle Sweeten and some other folks. And yeah, they're actually going to, with myself on the board and a few other people, some of the original members of that crew are on the committee to help kind of get that going as well. Adam has people on there as well. But that's actually going to help forge a hands-on agriculture in the agricultural curriculum that after a few schools they've worked with, they're hoping to introduce that to the state on a larger state level, and to be able actually be able to show these children that and these youth that, hey, agriculture, just because your grandpa brings you over to cut hay and whatnot and lift hay bales and stuff, and it really sucks when you're 12 years old doing that, and you're like, oh my God, the last thing I ever want to do is be a farmer, that there's some really cool things that you could be doing, and it's a good life, and it's something that you can be proud of, and something that you could pass on to your people and your children someday. It's not a bad thing. It's not a lame situation. This is something that's set up sustainably, could last forever. And that's our whole point here. More recently, we just got funded for a smaller $5,000 SARE grant, working to expand our apiary, as well as bring a type of mentorship to our local tribal members. So we will be putting out basically setting 5 different members up. And I know we've all worked on grants before and so on and so forth, but a lot of times people come in and they get a grant and like, okay, we're going to help these 5 people. And then they give this equipment to the folks, and then they're like, cool, yeah, for this year. And then 3 years later, you see it in the back of their garage or in their backyard rotting. And you're like, man, that really sucks, bummer. Well, I hate to do that, but we actually put a situation inside this grant that, hey, this is how much the nukes cost. This is how much your entire kit costs. And they're getting a pretty awesome situation. I wish I had this for myself, but we're asking them, hey, to show you that you really want to do this, you have a financial commitment to this as well. And it's only $150, which they're getting like $900 worth of stuff. And then we'll be helping them with the help of some regional experts and so on and so forth, and some people that are really close to my heart. We'll be helping them throughout this year to establish their own beehives, and hopefully split into 2 beehives to actually show sustainability. That's a thing that I find that a lot of grand tours and a lot of just financial organizations in general that fund these educational, projects and, things of that nature. There's a lot, like Ben was saying earlier, there's a whole lot of, big talk, and then throw the words sustainability and, sovereignty, and especially throw the word First Nations in there somewhere. You're probably going to get some money, because the problem is, at the end of it, did you actually create something that's sustainable? Can I come back 5 years later and say any part of this is even remembered, let alone being utilized? That's a huge aspect. And I think that something like this apiary project is something that could be that. You're actually creating food, you're creating medicine, like true medicine, both scientifically and metaphysically. You are creating true medicine with honey and bees, as well as food sustainability. You're changing the entire pollination repertoire of the entire area, which is amazing stuff. Not only that, but you can trade for other stuff, like your maple syrup, like your monomen, for your wild rice, for whatever you want. It's honey, it's liquid gold. and you can go to the farmer's market and sell it. If that's not actually utilizing a sustainable structure and, a blueprint, what the hell is? That's super awesome. So yeah, I've worked with SARE in quite a few different things, and I don't know, and I gotta throw huge kudos out to Dean Boss and Adam and Gray out here. Once you meet them, if you haven't in person, and if they like it, you're kind of SOL, because you're not getting away. Because you're going to meet all the rest of these crazy other people that are involved in their lives, and SARE's lives, and Extension's lives, and MIF's lives, and holy crap, all of the different 3-letter and 4-letter acronyms lives, and you're done. You're done. You're never getting out of this. You'll wind up having random seed packets and stuff dropped off with beautiful, beautiful pictures and whatnot drawn on them. You're like, what the heck? Dude? You're like, Abby, these people are amazing people. This thing that we're doing here is really, truly amazing work. Anishinaabe and First Nations people are trying, just like the rest of the world is. I just get to see it in more of a microcosm, as far as sustainability and sovereignty. It's a lot easier for folks to look in on a reservation and say, what work are they doing right there? So it's, you screw up, well, your cousin, they know you screwed up too, and they're going to come over and they're going to give you a hassle, so on and so forth. So to have this opportunity to work with so many other people and have their sometimes very needed interjections, like, Cloud, settle down, take care of what you're doing with this right now first, okay? I did that 20 years ago, just chill out, and Ben, my hat is off to you 100 times. We've been working with grass-fed Black Angus steer here for going on 8 years, and if it wasn't for Ben and some of the other people in the grass-fed community up here, we'd be at a loss. Truly great people to meet. In the very, very limited time I've had to meet and discuss things with some of these experts and some of these phenomenal people, I'm blessed. I have no degrees. I have no nothing. I've got an associate's degree in freaking construction. That's literally what it comes down to. But my grandfather and my great-grandfather and my great-grandfather were all Gitikanon. They all were farmers, every one of them, in their own manner. So it goes back in my bloodline for a long time. I wasn't raised on a farm, don't get me wrong, but I definitely have been growing things since the time I was small. And my connection with this and with the things that I learned through these people, it's unsurmountable. You can't put a value on that. And through the help of SARE and some of these programs, I really, it just wouldn't exist without it. Sorry to babble on.
Thank you. Cloud, thank you so much for that. I just, for all of us on the call right now, I think Cloud summarized SARE so well, is how connected everybody is. So, you get in touch with me or Dean, yeah, you're opening Pandora's box when it comes to network connections, but it gives you the opportunity to do some amazing stuff and meet some amazing people. I mean, I've been working with you, Cloud, for, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now. And what has happened, seeing Cloud in action, I know you say you have no degrees, but when it comes to farming, Cloud has a PhD in agriculture when it comes to the actual know-how on the farm. And I gotta be honest, every time I come to Waishley Bay and sit down with Cloud, I leave with more knowledge than I came with. And so he is absolutely a wealth of knowledge. And Cloud, I just appreciate what you are doing for the Bay Mills community so much. And I'm looking really forward to this beekeeping project that we got going on this year. So thank you so much for your take on working with SARE, and lots of love to you, buddy. And we'll look forward to working with you all season.
I know my time's up. I know we're all time constrained, but I got to tell you, as far as, to kick off a Ben situation one last time, as far as advice to people who are trying to get in to SARE or, are intimidated by it, so on and so forth. The best thing, I even wrote it down, was don't think that the biggest and best beats your people's or your individual ways. Simplicity is the king of sustainability. You very, very easily, you've got $10,000 trellising systems and so on and so forth in these hoop houses. You can build that for, something that's relative to your size and scale for $500, and that's something that you approach SARE with and let's say, hey, I really want to check out the differences and really see whether scientifically or whatever you want to call it, like, does this traditional way or this way my grandfather do it, is it really not as good as what you're showing me now with, automated sprinklers and so on and so forth? You know what I mean? That's a worthwhile venture right there. Like I said, don't think that all the biggest and greatest and people who have $10 billion to start their farms and so on and so forth are going to do any better than you are. Is that really sustainable? Is that, that's the whole point of this situation. So don't think
that's great advice.
Yeah,
that's great advice, Cloud. That really is. Simplicity is key, not only in the project proposal, but also in the writing, because we want to be able to understand it when we're reviewing it, just like Ben said. Thank you both, Cloud and Ben, so much for joining us today. Your take on working with SARE is really been, I think, beneficial for all of us. So thank you.